Of course, we all know this. If you've been studying NLP or if you've been interested in learning hypnosis, we all know about you can say this certain pattern of words. You can use language in a certain way. Well, what I'm teaching about are the kind of subtle distinctions with which it doesn't matter what you say. You can use other forms of communication other than words in order to induce deep states of trance and very specific states of trance to allow people to do things that they could not normally ordinarily do, and allow them to have access to resources that they would not ordinarily have.
Fantastic.
And essentially this is something that I think is really important. Well, like for example, the one thing that really struck me about this, and again without spending too much time on this, Erickson was able to successfully work with people who spoke no English. And he didn't work in another language, and usually the translators, if there were translators, would tend to trance out after a couple of minutes anyway and just stop talking. Now, that being the case, my question would be, if the language were the important thing, how was he able to do this?
Yeah.
And so I spent many years learning about the patterns underneath the language.
Right.
I mean, yes, there are certainly wonderful language hypnosis, language distinctions.
No, I love that. It's fantastic. Yeah.
But this is, I think, the more powerful aspect of it.
Yeah, definitely.
Anything.
And it can only improve your linguistic hypnosis, your conversational hypnosis.
Well, that's the point. Is that essentially, any time that you've ever heard someone tell a compelling story, anytime you've ever heard a public speaker who commands attention, that you want to listen to, that you'd love to listen to even more, then you know that this is someone who, on some level, is inducing a state of desire in you.
Yes.
And because even the most compelling...
And curiosity.
But even the most compelling material can be dead, dull, and boring.
Yeah, it can be.
Any of us who have attended a college lecture will know that this is true.
Yes.
And so the way to make something to be magnetic, to be absolutely compelling in the way that you deliver material, any material, and to be able to make any kind of conversation, really to where you are able to not only communicate the content of the language, but you're able to communicate so much more underneath.
Absolutely love it.
So.
Fascinating stuff. So you're doing that in Poland?
Doing that in Poland.
Do you know what month you're doing it, or?
I believe, unless I'm terribly mistaken, that is taking place in June.
Okay, so thereabouts later, mid-year.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, fantastic.
And then I will also be doing some trainings in the UK.
Fantastic.
And then
now you live. I should say, Michael Perez lives in the UK.
In London.
In London.
That's correct.
And he lives in lovely Islington. Is it Islington?
It is Islington. Well, Angel is in Islington.
So. Fantastic area.
It is lovely, lots of little restaurants. And
so gorgeous.
Beautiful place. But one of the things that I would also say is this, is that I know that we've been talking about maybe doing something in Las Vegas.
Absolutely.
At some point.
Yeah, so that's something that you'll be able to look forward to as well. You guys in the West Coast, and I'm sure everybody from the East Coast wants to come as well. And since it's Las Vegas, people from the UK and Europe and Africa will want to come as well.
Well, I'd be glad to meet each and every one of you, because what's really important to me, and I guess this is also the other thing I really want to stress. When I do a training, it is not about my sitting up on a pedestal addressing the crowd and then walking away. I'm really interested in personally connecting with the people who attend these things.
He's fantastic, you guys.
So I only work with relatively small audiences as a result, because it's important to have that connection.
He does, and I'll tell you, if you get the chance to, when we put it together, just take the chance to come out and see Michael. He's phenomenal. You will be so surprised with the information that he's got. And just having the chance to see him live is going to be fantastic. So that will be NLP is Fun in Las Vegas. And look out for the updates on that one. That will be on Michael's website and also on mine too. Now tell us your website address again.
The website address is changeworkers.com.
Changeworkers.co.uk.
So that's changeworkers, all one word, .co. That's kind of the UK equivalent of .com. So .co.uk.
And that information will be repeated on the end of this video too. So yeah, that's exciting stuff. Now tell us a little bit more about your experiences with NLP and also hypnosis. How did you even get involved in NLP?
Well, many years ago.
How many?
This was when dinosaurs ruled the earth.
Because you know so much about NLP, it's amazing.
Well, I was working with a multinational corporation for their IT department, and essentially, at the time, I was actually working as a systems engineer.
Yeah.
And they wanted me to do some training for the tech support department, because the problem was that essentially the tech support department was mostly there was a 75% dissatisfaction rate, because the people who were running the tech support department were generally upset that the users were messing up the computers.
Oh, because they were just, this is mine.
Yeah, well, we had this perfectly nice computer, and you came along and ruined it. So And so, of course, the customers were pissed. Everybody was pissed.
Yeah, happens a lot. They kind of disconnect with the IT department, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, it does. And
very good at what they do, not so much people person.
Well, I mean, let's face it. Now this is, and again, this is a generality, and all generalities are lies, including that one. But one of the things that you can think about is that people who use computers tend to be people who can focus on computers long enough to learn them. They have their own language, their own logic, their own structure. But one of the things that's true about a computer is that once you understand the language, the logic, and the structure, you can always understand it. And if something goes wrong, you can debug it and fix the problem.
Yeah.
It's very easy once you know the structure.
Yeah, doesn't change.
It doesn't change. And so therefore, computers were an understandable interaction. Now, of course, I got into computers because I thought that they were toys, and it was just like the stuff that was on Star Trek, and so I said, cool. And
now you are an engineer, aren't you?
I was a computer engineer for many years.
In a former life, computer engineer.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah. And so, and then of course, I was a much younger man at this time, but essentially at that time I was interfacing a lot. Interfacing, that's a cool word.
Where'd that come from? Computer science.
Oh, computer science, yeah. That's jargon.
Yeah.
But I was sort of the liaison between the techies and the corporate guys.
Yeah.
Because I could sit down and explain the technical stuff in human language.
Right.
And then they would tell me what they wanted, and then I would explain it in technical language to technical guys.
Yeah.
And, project
Understood, because that's a lot of the problem, isn't it?
Yeah, a lot of, essentially serving as a translator. So doing all the project management and that sort of thing. And they said, well, look, here's the thing. Because we have this absolutely catastrophic situation in terms of tech support levels, we would like for you to teach the technical people not to enrage the people that they're trying to support.
Please don't.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they'd already chewed up several, communication specialists.
Wow.
Because it's sent in, essentially in corporate circles are two kinds of communication specialists. There are the kind of the sales guys, and they're the ones who teach you how to use your voice in order to help people understand exactly what they're saying. And then you come out sounding like hell. So they didn't like them, and they'd spit them out. And then the other people are people like Moonflower Rainshine, who would come in with crystals and tell you, the most important thing about synchronizing the harmony, is the way that you begin to appreciate the gentle spirit within the other karma of the chakras.